Hello crafters, I'm Jan B and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. Today I'm going to show you how I made this box which holds 5 note cards. The sentiment on the cards is today is a perfect day to be happy, so they could be used as note cards, thank you cards, birthday cards if you write the greeting on the inside. The choice is yours. I'm just going to call them note cards. Inside there are 5 cards and they are all the same as the design on the front here, and on the back of the box is the same design as what I've put on the inside of the card. The reason I do that is because if I wanted to sell something like this at a craft show, and this would all be wrapped up in some cellophane bag, but I wouldn't want people keep opening and closing this to have a look to see what the cards inside were like. So I try and put whatever the card is like on the inside, on the front, and the inside of the card on the back. Works brilliantly as long as all 5 cards are the same, which obviously mine are. I'm not going to make the 5 cards because by doing this bit I'm really demonstrating how to do these as well. I have already made my cards, so I'll start off with, and I will show you the card pieces that you're going to need to make 5 cards and the box. And I am changing the colour scheme, and the colours that I'm using are Smokey Slate and Blushing Bride. For this one I've used Sahara Sand and Fresh Fig, and both of them I think goes brilliantly. This one I've used the copper embellishment, and this one the silver, but otherwise they're all the same. So let me tell you the card pieces first. No, let me explain to you about the designer series paper first. I've used the Petal Promenade, and this I'm afraid is a screenshot of what it looks like, because in the pack you only get 2 sheets with this design on, and I've used both of my sheets. Fortunately I'd photographed it first, so I've done a screenshot, and what you get are 6 of these, which is what I've used on here, and you get 3 of these, and you also get that strip. Now on these ones, the first ones that I did, I cut that strip off and I just fussy cut the edge and used that. But because I have 5 cards and the box, I used all of this and half of the second sheet, which meant I didn't have anything for my second lot of cards. So what I've done with these is I've still got this, although much smaller, and personally I prefer this smaller one, and this is what I'm going to recommend that you do. What I've done for this is I've taken these and I've used the top and then the 2 sides. It meant I've had to use 1.5 of the squares, so not that one. Okay, so that's one of the big squares, and this is what's left of it because I have been using it. I've cut those 2 bits off. Okay, but I will show you exactly what I've done with that. It possibly sounds very confusing, but it isn't. So let me start off with the card pieces that you're going to be needing. Obviously I'm not going to have all the pieces here because I've done the cards, but I'm going to tell you what you need. So to start off with the card pieces, which is for 5 of these, you are going to need 5 pieces of Smokey Slate Smokey Slate Cardstock, which measure 3 3/4 inches by 7.5 inches, scored at 3 3/4 inches, or in centimetres that's 9.5 by 19 centimetres, scored at 9.5. So that's the 5 cards that you need. Now for the Blushing Bride, you need 12 of these pieces, which measure 3 1/8 inches by 3 1/8 inches, which is 7.9 by 7.9 centimetres. And then for the designer series paper, this one, and I will show you how I cut this out by cutting out one of the larger pieces. The method is the same. Okay, so you need 6 of these, which measure 3 inches by 3 inches, which is 7.6 by 7.6. You will also need 6 pieces of this, because this is for the inside of your card. This piece here. That's 6 of these, which measure 3 inches by 3 inches, which is 7.6 by 7.6. I will put all of these measurements and the amounts that you need in the box below the video. And the DSP trims, which are these here, I haven't cut those yet because I want to show you how I did it. You will need 6 of them that measure 7/8 of an inch by 3 inches, which is 2.2 by 7.6 centimetres. So if you start off with 2 of these, then you can get your trims. And then for the box, you need a piece of Smokey Slate which measures 8 1/8 inches by 8 1/8 inches, which is 20.6 by 20.6 centimetres. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to show you, first of all, how I cut this out, because I needed that to be exactly 3 by 3, and then how I cut my trims off. Okay, so let's imagine that these are my 3 by 3s. I'm going to bring my trimmer up, because this really is your best friend when you're trying to cut these. All I did was I just lined up that edge with that cutting groove there, but before I actually cut, I just used my cutting blade just to do a little bit up there, just to make sure I was in the right place. I can see that I am there, so I'm going to slice that right the way down. Okay, now I'm going to go over to this side and I'm going to line up with that side. Okay, so you're imagining that I've got the small squares here, the 3 by 3s. Again, I'm doing a little cut. Yep, that's good. That's going to slice in the right place. It's left a tiny little tad there. You can either cut that bit off with a guillotine or just leave it. I think I would just leave it. It is so close. Let me just show you close up so you can see the small bit that I'm talking about. Can you see that? You can probably see it better down here where you've got that white underneath it. But it is so small, it really is tiny. So I would do all 4 sides like that. In fact, let's finish cutting this, because I can take the my little border bits from here. So let me just check this. Yeah, except I just moved that. That's it. Now when you're doing the bit for the trims, if you do this the wrong size, do it so that you cut a tad extra off rather than leaving the extra bits on. This is just, before when I left that little bit on, that was because we were imagining this was my square bit, my 3 by 3. But now we're working on the oblong bit, and if you cut it short, if you cut it a slightly bit wrong, cut it so that you cut a little bit more off than you need. Right, now I'm going to turn it around again. I'm going to give it a little cut. Yes, that's lovely, spot on. Okay, can you see how I've left a little tad on there? Now that's a lot better than cutting too much off. Now I've got this, I want to take 4 border parts off of here, and the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to put this edge on the 7/8 of an inch on here. Okay, so that's lined up, and I'm just going to slice that off. So that's one piece. I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to line this one up on 7/8 of an inch. Now I can turn this one and measure that on 7/8, and then turn this one 7/8. Okay, so we've cut our squares off, and we've cut our 4 borders. All I did with my borders, I fussy cut the edge. Now it was a bit difficult in places because if you can see this flower here, it comes right to the edge, but I didn't want any straight edges across here. So what I did was, in fact, let me show you this end first. You see that little bit with the red berry there? I am going to cut around the berry and then work my way. I've got another straight bit here. Let me show you what I do. Okay, so I'm just going to curve around that, and I'm coming back up to the white one and just doing it very, very slightly curved, making sure that I'm not coming off the edge. And then when I get to the pink one, going back out again. It means I leave a little bit of the flower behind, but I don't have any straight edges there. Okay, so I just keep on cutting. It doesn't take long. If you really can't stand fussy cutting, then you may want to find a different way of decorating your inside page, or just use it as a straight strip without worrying about cutting the shapes. Okay, so I'm just roughly cutting these this way and that way, trying to get nice little curved lines everywhere. Now again, here's the next big flower, so I'm just curving around and then coming back round again. In fact, I'm cutting that little last bit off. Okay, so you can see how I've just done like a little curve around there. It makes the rose look a little bit like a funny rose, but it really doesn't notice once it's in your card, on your card rather. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to pop this on here. Now you will find 2 of your pieces are going to be longer than here, because I just did 7/8 of an inch on all 4 sides, and it meant the 2 on the long sides is longer, but that doesn't matter because I'm just going to adhere that on there and then I'm going to trim it off. So I'm going to do this before, in fact that corner looks a little bit creased up, so I'm going to put this over the top of that. Okay, so just use some Tombow to cover this up, to glue it on rather. Because I'm using both of my sheets here for this project, doing 2 the same, I'm not going to be able to use that paper on the back there, and it's lovely. Right, so I'm just popping that so that it comes down to the edge. Okay, so that's like that, and I'm just going to trim the excess off. I could have worked it out so that I was trimming off 1 inch from either side. I think, could I have done? If I'd done 1 inch there, but I did think that maybe it would make it a little bit too short. So this works, I'm happy. Right, so that's for the back of my card. And my square is going to be going on here. Right, in fact that's got to go on there as well, hasn't it? So you would do 5 of these and 5 of these for your cards, and then you do the 6th one of each for your box. When you're doing your making these layers for your cards, I made sure that all of my cards, it had that part there in the top right hand corner. Now if you're not fussy, don't worry about it, but if you do like things matching and everything, it's like on here. Okay, all mine are the same, but you could do them all different if you wanted to. Okay, so that's just something for you to watch for. Right, so let's pop this one on here as well. So then that's all ready to go onto my box. My cardstock is a little bit rucked up there. Let's just flatten that. That's better. Now I've got a bit of glue on there. That's better. Alright, so that's for my box. So now let me show you how to make the box. And I've used these little embellishments which are called leaves trinkets. You get 24 in a box, and you get 6 silver and 6 copper, and then you get 6 copper of these and 6 silver of those as well. Okay, and you would also need 2 small magnets, because that's how I've closed that one. Right, where's my cardstock and my envelope punch board? Right, now what you need to do here is you need to line your first punch up at 3 3/8. Okay, so you punch and score. I struggle with this if I'm sitting down, and then the next one you do at 4 3/4 and score. Turn it 90 degrees, line the pointer up with your score line. Ooh, did it. And punch and then score. Move it along to your next score line. Punch and score. Turn 90 degrees. Line up with your score line. Punch. Oops. And score, preferably in a straight line. Move along to your next score line. Punch and score. Line the pointer up with your first score line. and score, and then your second score line, punch and score. Okay, that's all you need to do. Nice and easy. Now you need some scissors to do some cutting. Now this is a square, so it doesn't really matter which side you start, and as my scorer slipped there, I want this to be my bottom bit. So what you need to do is on this one, cut it up to that score line there on both sides. But what I do is, this is curved round here, so I take my scissors straight up to this edge here and I cut that curved bit off. It means that when I cut, I'm cutting to the left hand side of the actual score line, but I cut that bit off, and then I come back in again and I do a little mitre, well maybe a bigger mitre, up to that point and cut that off like that. Okay, and I do the same to this, keep my scissors straight onto this side so that I cut that one off, and then a mitre into that corner. Okay, so that's the bottom. Now turn it around. Now this is where you need to make a decision. I like on mine to have this little flap here, because when it's closed I think it just gives it a nice finished look, but I am finding that that little tab keeps catching on the inside. You see how that looks nicely finished off rather than having it a cut edge. And it's these little bits here. You can cut that right off if you like. But what's happening is, because of the size of the box, I could have made the box bigger, but I didn't want my cards floating around in there. But as that's going down, it's just catching on the corner of these envelopes and on that side. But I don't find that's a huge problem, so I am going to leave my flaps on there. Alright. So what we're going to do is, as before, we're going to cut here, straight line, so we cut that curved bit off. We're going to do a mitre, and then we're going to turn this and we're going to cut off about halfway. Okay, and then do a mitre on that side as well. Okay, so let's do that again. Do straight line, straight cut, and then mitre, and then what did I do first? Did I cut it? I think I did, didn't I? So cut that in half and then mitre that corner, and I do it so that I cut that curvy bit off as well. Okay, so let me lay that on there so that you can see exactly what I've done. Okay, see how I've got a curve there, a slanted line there, slanted there, and there, and there. But I've left these two as they are. So now I am going to fold on all my creases, and I am going to use my bone folder so that I get some good creases. And that's including the little tabs. Oh, I haven't rounded my corners, have I? I will go back and do that because I do think it finishes off the project nicely. So I'm just getting my envelope punch board back again. Just pop that in there. See, just only a little thing, but it does make it look better, I think. There we go. Right, now this side with the big tabs pointing down to you, on this flap here I'm going to use some red sticky strip. You can use tear and tape, but I don't recommend that you use snail. And when I'm putting this on, I'm not putting it right down to that score line. I'm only doing it down as far as where the bend comes and it starts going straight down. And at the top here, if I can unstick my finger, I don't take it right up to the curve there either. And the same again this side, down to where that goes around the corner. And not quite to the top. Okay, like that. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to put some Tombow on here. You can use more sticky strip if you like, but I just find it's easier to get Tombow over most of the tab. But just make sure that you don't do so much that it starts oozing out into your box. The last thing you want is for your cards to get stuck in there. Whoops, I think I've just gone in there. Oh no, maybe not. Okay, so fold the first, oh, it's a line that I didn't fold. Ah. Not clever. Right, okay. Now, fold that one against that side so you get a really nice straight corner. And just hold it for a few seconds just to give Tombow a chance to get a grip of it. Okay, and then once you're happy with that one, move around to this one and again get a nice straight edge. So you've got a nice straight corner there. Just give that a little push. Okay, so when you're happy that Tombow has done what it's meant to do, I am going to take the red backing off of my sticky strip. Pop it into the glass because it finds glass far more attractive to stick to than fingers. Just give that a good press down if it's not wanting to come up. Right, put that one in there. Now, it's really important at this stage to make sure that you get a square box. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to close this down. Okay, so tuck the two flaps in so you've got a really nice square box up at the top there. Once you've done that, hold that in place. Okay, make sure, what I'm doing is I tend to push on this side so that that stays nice and firm. Now I'm going to fold this one over and make sure that I've got nice square corners here, but at the same time I'm using my grid paper to make sure I've got straight lines on all four sides. If you don't watch what you're doing, you're going to finish up with a really very wonky box. And once you're happy, press it down. Okay, now that is a nice square box. So I'm going to open that up, lay that down so that I can actually put some pressure onto my sticky strip. Okay. That's interesting. I have the flaps on here, which is going to be a much better idea. I'm going to have to work out how I did that. What I'll do is I'll work out which way you get the flaps down here rather than up on this side. It's got to be really easy. And I will write the instructions in the box with all the measurements and everything. But that is much easier, and it gets over the problem that I've had on this one. Okay, much better. I wished I'd thought about that. Anyway, I didn't, so never mind. So what we need to do now is I need to get this adhered onto here, and I need part of it on here as well. So first thing I'm going to do is I am going to put my magnet, get that attached in first. Okay, so I know that they're going to be going like that. So this one with the paper going up, I am going to adhere that just on the inside. If you think that it's too fussy trying to get it on the inside, you can stick it out here, but I prefer mine to be out of sight. And all you need to do is to make sure that it's around about there, and you can feel that. Okay, it's quite easy to do. I wonder if I can keep that on there to do that. No, I can't really, can I? Can't get two hands in there. Right, so what I'm doing, I'll leave that on there, balance it on my finger without gluing it to that one, and then I'm going to slide it in, pop it on there. Yep, that looks good. And then this one, which way round? I had the paper up. So, there we go. Okay, so that's attached to the other magnet. So I can bring this one over and just adhere it on there. Okay, I'm just going to hold that for a couple of minutes for that to get a grip. In fact, while that's doing that, if I turn it over, I can be popping this on here. So let's be doing that. This one's straightforward, it's the one on the front that we need to cut. Okay, so that's the back. Now, has this dried? Yep, that's good. So the way I am now going to do this to get this cut is I am going to put that where I want it to go. I'm going to get myself a pencil and making sure that that is nice and straight, because you only get one go at this, and then close it. Make sure that's still nice and straight, and then holding it in place, you draw I'm holding my breath here. Okay, yep, I can just about see what I'm doing there. So now that I've done that, I'm going to take my scissors and I am going to cut straight on that line. The most tricky bit is trying to get round the corner, but if you turn slowly and cut slowly at the same time, it should be a walk in the park. There we go. Oh, you know what I've forgotten to do? Forgotten to stamp the sentiment on that. Oh dear. Right, so we're not going to panic about this. I am going to use my temporary adhesive and pop that there. I do advise that you try and do this bit before, and I'm sure lots of you have been shouting out at me. Don't forget the sentiment, Jan. There we go. Alright. So now the sentiment is from the bunch of blossoms, and it's this. Today is a perfect day to be happy. I have just used this stamp so many times. The ink I'm using is basic black. This is our classic ink. It's not the what do we used to call the other one? I've forgotten now. But I might have to this is from when I first changed over to the foam ink pads back in, I don't know, it must have been about 2013. But it's looking a little bit sorry for itself, so I think I might get myself a new one, and then that way I get a new shape as well, new container. Right. There we go. It works, it's just not an ideal way of doing it. Let's just put the gooey bits on there. Oh, I think this looks a bit like a marzipan. I can't stand marzipan. There we go. Get that rid of that one as well. Oh, get in there. That's it. Right, now I'm going to adhere this on here, so that one will go on So let's do this one first, then we can tell where the next one goes. Okay, so you just slide that down into position. Almost perfect, not quite, but really, really very, very close. So I'm happy with that. And then this one, if you close that down, glue this, and you can put this into position as well. Quite easy, isn't it? There we go. I'm happy with that. Just give that a chance to glue down properly. Obviously this part you could use snail if you wanted, or tear and tape. There we go. So I have 5 envelopes here, which I bought from a hobbycraft type shop ages ago. So they can go in there. And my 6 cards, oh, I've got to do my embellishment, haven't I? 5 cards rather, that's those. Oh, I wished I'd thought about that with the tabs. This is so much nicer. In fact, I'll go back and watch the video, see how I did it. So what I did to attach this, I used Tombow. I just put some glue on the back. Come on. Not too much now. There we go, that should be fine. I haven't done it all over. There we go. Tombow will hold that in place brilliantly. And I have some baker's twine, whether it's actually Blushing Bride or not, I don't know, but it goes brilliantly. So when the last annual catalogue was about to retire, I went through and I bought all the baker's twine that was in there, and of course I did start labelling them, but obviously not on that one, so I don't really know what colours some of them are. I just test them up against the cardstock, and if they look really, really close, then I'm happy. Okay, so that's a nice little bow. And my ribbon scissors. Just try and keep the tails the same size. And then a little blob on there. go. And then I pop this on top. Normally what I do is I will put a weight on there to hold it down, but as I need to close off my video first, right, let me just show you both projects. There was that one and that one. Okay, and let me just get one of these cards out. So when you're watching my video, just pay attention to which side I actually cut the tabs, because that is the much better way than what I did on that one. Alright, so there we go, that's today's project. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you give it a try. Make a lovely gift for somebody. If you have any questions, please leave them in the box below the video, and in the box below the video you will find the measurements and the product details and where to do the scores on the envelope punch board and everything. It'll all be in the box below for you. If you've enjoyed my video and you'd like to be notified each time I upload a new one, which is normally on Wednesdays and Sundays, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and if you've enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up. Many thanks for joining me today. Until next time, happy crafting. Cheerio.